They are the fiercest predators in the country. Powerful, majestic, not to mention deadly. And so filming bears is somewhat of a challenge. But in the Great Bear Rainforest on the central and north coast of British Columbia, 36 remote cameras have been rolling for 2 years now, capturing these kings of the forest as you've never seen them before. It's reality TV, all in the name of science. And what it's telling us about how these animals migrate and why could have far-reaching implications. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to come face-to-face with a giant grizzly, here's your answer. Curious about the remote camera, this mama bear fogs up the lens. But at least it's intact so that moments later, it can capture her 2 cubs engaging in some sibling rivalry, wrestling on the forest floor. It's candid moments like these that have been recorded night and day for 2 years now. Why? Because scientists theorize that in the Great Bear Rainforest of British Columbia, there is a great colonization underway, a migration that could have cascading effects for these animals, and 36 remote cameras could just prove it. To meet the people behind the lens, we traveled to the Great Bear Rainforest. Not an easy feat, as we discovered. 3 plane rides and a boat trip later, we were there, in the richness of the Central Coast, where the wildlife is always on full display. And the rainforest lives up to its name. For a week, we journeyed on the Achiever.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
With Professor Chris Darramont from the University of Victoria, members of the Raincoast Conservation Foundation, and PhD student Christina Service, the lead researcher on this project.
As most people do when they come to this area, I've absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the landscape, fell in love with the animals here, but also fell in love with the communities that I was working with.
They call this place Canada's Galapagos, a part of the world where you'll find species that don't exist anywhere else. Sitka deer that cross deep channels, rain wolves that eat fish and can swim up to 15 kilometers, and most notably, a white bear, the spirit bear. Neither polar bear nor albino, the spirit bear is a subspecies of the black bear, born when both parents carry a rare mutation of a recessive gene. It's the same gene that in humans is associated with red hair and fair skin.
When you see one emerge from a dark green forest and dip its head into a stream to pull out a beautiful silver salmon wiggling around in its mouth, I mean, this is incredible stuff that you don't find anywhere else except the Great Bear Rainforest.
Population estimates for the spirit bear range from 400 to fewer than 100. They have survived in part because their gene pool has been isolated to a cluster of islands, away from the mainland and away from the more dominant grizzly. That is until about a decade ago, when people here started noticing a shift. Among them, Councillor Doug Niesloss of the Kitasoo First Nation.
I used to walk a lot of rivers. I used to walk 53 rivers every year. I worked with a lot of our elders in terms of how to track different types of animals. And we wanted to go up certain rivers to look for spirit bear fur. As we were up there, we started to find more and more evidence that looked like grizzly fur on some of the islands. And we thought, okay, that doesn't make any sense.
Bears move. Why is that so significant?
When you get a grizzly bear that moves onto an island, it really changes the whole landscape of that particular system that you're in. Usually black and grizzlies don't hang out. We know quite often, actually, a grizzly bear would kill a white bear or a black bear.
You were seeing it first. Before the scientists came up here, before anybody questioned you, you were seeing a shift happening in your backyard.
Yes.
And when you told people this was happening, they said,
I'm not a scientist or biologist, and I had no right seeing some of these things.
So Doug set about getting that science. He helped create the Spirit Bear Research Foundation with funding from the community and enlisted the expertise of Chris Darramont and Christina Service from the University of Victoria.
We needed to answer these questions. We needed to get access to that science.
Hey, bear.
To get those answers, Christina set up 36 monitoring stations, a barbed wire corral coupled with a remote camera and a scent lure.
And the idea here is that the bears walk over this barbed wire and in the process of doing so, leave a little sample of their hair for us behind. And from that, we can get lots of different pieces of information.
How long does it take for the bears to appear after you've baited this?
It sort of depends. I mean, in some systems, we pour it and we look across the estuary and we can see a bear walking towards us right away, and we're trying to hightail it to the boat right away.
And the bears came, leaving hair samples and DNA traces.
So once we collect it here today, we're going to send it into a lab, and we can get genetic information on if it's a unique individual, its gender, and also if we've detected this bear at another snag stations.
You're tracking these bears based on what you're finding here.
Exactly.
This red line represents a single grizzly Christina tracked as it roamed more than 200 kilometers. But what Christina caught on camera showed more than just location. It captured something she wasn't looking for, a window into the behavior of bears. Like this sow, teaching her cub how to leave a scent marking on a rub tree. Or the irresistible nature of a bear wallow. But there was more. With the cameras rolling, all sorts of creatures made a cameo. Porcupines, cougars, the rain wolves. And although it's only seen on the very edge of the screen, a wolverine, one of the most elusive animals of the forest.
Yeah, we've gotten insight into lots of different species that we weren't necessarily setting out to study.
Of course, the hazard of setting up a foreign device in a wild forest is that it doesn't always survive. Is he eating the camera?
Yeah, they all gnaw on the camera a bit.
Do they think it's food?
I don't think they think it's food, they're just curious.
And it goes black.
Yeah.
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, that means that camera's probably not going to be deployed in 2014.
How many cameras have you lost?
We've probably lost about maybe 5 or 6, yeah. Small price to pay.
Still, the greatest point of fascination for Christina is not who or what, but where these animals are turning up.
A year and a half ago, you set out to answer a question.
Yeah.
Are grizzlies moving in to these islands? Mm-hmm. What have you found?
Well, we found that we have a pretty strong case for many of these islands to support grizzly bear populations.
On some cameras where spirit bears were spotted only a year earlier, grizzlies now appeared.
This video that we got from an island in which we saw not only a grizzly bear, but a reproducing individual. So we had a mother and cubs. To have females who have smaller home ranges, and those especially with cubs, it was pretty significant. It really sealed our case.
And off camera, there were even more clues to a colonization underway. And so for that, we ventured into the forest.
Next, face to face with a bear.
There he is, right there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
There is a legend among First Nations people that the spirit bear was created by the raven as a reminder of the last ice age. 1 in 10 black bears was turned white and placed on an island where it would be protected for all time.
I was actually sent on my first guiding trip to go look for spirit bears. I actually didn't think they existed because my community never talked about them. Part of it was to really conceal the fact that they existed, otherwise people would get out there and hunt them.
Doug Niesloss would be proven wrong. Not only did he see his first spirit bear that day, he made it his life's calling.
That was the day I decided that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, is get out and spend time with these animals.
But in the years since, Doug has been witness to a change. Grizzlies moving westward, he says, from the mainland to the islands.
Probably about 10 years ago that we started to see it. We started seeing more and more every year, and then you started seeing mothers with cubs on the islands. Then you started seeing big male grizzly bears hang out in certain systems.
So we asked Doug to take us out to see if perhaps somewhere we might still be able to find a spirit bear. And he was confident.
This system needs to be one of my favorite systems to come. I've walked this one quite a few times. We used to have one little cub here. I've been watching probably for about 7 years now.
You've been watching him come here for 7 years. We hiked along bear trails and across streams of spawning salmon and found evidence that they were here.
Look at this. It's white bear fur.
What are you seeing, Doug?
White bear fur.
But there was also this.
So this is grizzly. You see how brown that one is?
And more evidence.
Yeah, that's definitely a grizzly scat.
How do you know that?
Because you can see it's mostly sedge, and black bears don't eat the sedge. These are areas where black and white bears have been able to thrive for thousands of years, and just being genetically isolated to these kind of islands, and now just having grizzly bears here, it just, yeah, I said it changes everything.
And you've never known there to be a grizzly here before?
No. So this could change everything. So this white bear now could get scared off, because this white bear that we've been viewing here is not a really big white bear, so chances are this grizzly will chase him off.
Over 2 days, we trekked and waited. A spirit bear was not to be.
It's got to be a bit crushing.
It is. It's very discouraging.
But the great bears of the rainforest wouldn't entirely disappoint. Only hours from leaving the Central Coast, a lone black bear lumbered out of the forest for some lunch.
There he is right there.
There he is, right there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. For 10 minutes, the bear plucked salmon after salmon from the river, discarding the male fish and eating only the eggs from the females.
Wow.
It's the salmon that are so central to everything here. To this black bear, to the wolves, and to the grizzlies. It's the salmon, says ecologist Chris Deramont, that may be the cause of this entire colonization.
As far as the physical feat, it was no big deal to colonize these islands. But the larger question is, why did they do it?
The lead researcher on the project, Christina Service.
Why are they moving here?
We can make some informed guesses based on what these bears need and requirements they have. And a big one that makes sense by talking to folks in the community is salmon and changes in salmon abundance in these systems. And salmon has declined drastically over the last century. So as an important resource, it makes sense that as salmon goes down and resources go down, that these animals might need to, expand their horizons to find food sources.
And a system like this was capable of sustaining about 80,000 fish at one point.
And today it's
5,000 or 6,000.
It makes sense that these large, dominant competitors coming into these systems are going to reduce their access potentially to salmon in these streams on these islands.
reduce the spirit bear's access.
Yes, which is pretty critical because this is how bears on the coast make their living, is the amount of salmon that they eat directly contributes to basically the success of their offspring and therefore their populations.
The end game would be we'd see dwindling numbers of spirit bear.
Potentially, yes.
While Christina's cameras may indicate a troubling trend, they do offer hope that the white bears are still out there, somewhere. And this is proof.
They're very, very rare, and that's on the planet.
So seeing footage like this is exceptional.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work in terms of right camera placement and knowing where you think these bears are going to be, and luck.
There are hours and hours of incredible video from those remote cameras, and you can find the highlights on our website, global16by9.com. We'll be right back.